Paul Harrison and this particular comedian, as he self-describes. What do you make of it?
Good afternoon. Well, what struck me isn't so much what Dieudonné did say, but what he didn't. This was a perfect platform for him to put across his views. If he isn't an enthusiastic anti-Semite and 8 convictions for anti-Semitism suggests otherwise, then this was the opportunity for him to set that out. If he doesn't endorse people doing his shabby little gesture at Auschwitz and other sensitive areas that the Jewish community finds foul and offensive, again, that was the chance for him to defend that. All we got on both of those was an obscene silence.
Yeah, I mean, he was pressed by our reporter, Paul Harrison, on that. He said, look, if people take my action and they go and pose for photographs at Auschwitz or other things that he would consider to be distasteful, that is a question for them. They are the authors of their own misfortune in some respects. He can't be held accountable for that. As far as he is concerned, the phrase he used was the Colonel is a gesture of emancipation.
Gesture of emancipation or not, if it's going to be supporting those persecuted, then perhaps the Holocaust falls under that remit. I didn't find the interview particularly inquisitive, shall we say. There were so many key issues and salient points that weren't raised. His relationship with the National Front and Jean-Michel Le Pen, the fact that he refers to Holocaust memorials, and it's Holocaust Memorial Day on Monday here in the UK, as historical pornography. Loads of different issues that he should have been called to task on. I found that the interview, while fascinating and intriguing throughout, it seemed to me that the interviewer was so delighted to be getting 5 minutes with this man that he omitted any of the hard questions.
The question we often come back to is whether somebody can be opposed to the Zionism, if I can put it that broadly, and whether that amounts to a form of anti-Semitism. And I mean, I know people draw a distinction, but sometimes those two things can seem quite close to one another.
There's a blurring of the lines. Certainly the Jewish community here in the UK more and more seems to be getting it in the neck sometimes when it comes to issues in Israel blurring across to the UK community. I find the two are completely different, and to mistake an Israeli, if you like, with a Jew is not helpful. And I find that the actions of this man, and last night he did 3 performances and the Quenelle was again performed on all 3 occasions, does very, very little to help the Jewish community in this country and indeed in France.
And very briefly, Richard, are you satisfied with what the FA have said about Nicholas Anelka?
Yeah, the FA were right to take as long as they did. It was a difficult issue, and Anelka is quite right to defend himself and have his day in court, if you like. My concern is with West Brom, and it always has been, the employer of Anelka. They should have come out far quicker on this and taken a far more informed stance all the way through. They weren't qualified to comment on it from the beginning, and they've been silent ever since. They need to look upon Anelka rather than some expensive employee who can hopefully keep them in the Premier League, and more of an individual who should be responsible for everything he says and does.
Richard Ferrer, thanks very much. This is Sky News.